What's up, guys? Professor Rayce here, and today I'm going to give you a buyer's guide to investing in real estate in Medellin 2022 up to date. As many of you might know, I purchased a property a few months ago. I'm just going to share my experience with you here in the step-by-step guide, 9 steps to buying property in Medellin. Number 1, just like anywhere, real estate is local and experiential. So you can't abdicate or delegate your responsibility to know the areas in which you want to invest in. As you know, Medellin has different strata. So you might have strata number 6 all the way down to number 1. So the services in each one of these areas is different. The vibes are different. Walkability is distinct from one place to another. So you want to understand the unique dynamic and differences between the El Poblado, or which is a number 6, or in a number 4 where I invest in like a Sudamericana or Carlos Restrepo. So you want to understand those local dynamics. Number 2, you want to get a good lawyer, and I cannot stress the importance of this enough because it has downstream effects on all the other steps. My attorney was phenomenal. It was a blessing that I met her, and she's still on my Christmas gift list every year because she is vital to my success as an investor in Medellin. Number 3, you want to get a broker. Getting a broker is essential because as a foreign investor, you have to register the funds before you bring them into the country to make an investment. If you fail to do that, or if you just buy and try to circumvent the processes, you will be subject to penalties when you try to sell the property, up to almost 100% of your investment. So it's just like if you can buy the property legally, but if you don't register those funds with Form 4, when you try to sell that property, you're going to run into some problems at closing, and thereby limiting your liquidity or your ability to exit out on an investment. The broker that I use was Acciones y Valores. Here is a insight into my portal, so you can see sort of the funds that I have in the money market, and then I could just call them to issue wires to different sellers, or I can just get certified bank checks or go to one of their local banking partners to just withdraw cash. Either one of those options work, but they help you legalize the funds with the bank. Filling out is called Form 4, and your lawyer is going to also help you with that. Critical to not mess up on the broker step. Step number 4, you want to define your buying criteria. And by this I mean you want to understand why is it that you're buying this property. Some people might buy a real estate investment in Colombia for visa purposes, so you want to understand the laws, chat with your lawyer to understand what's the threshold, what's the minimum amount that you need to spend in order to get the visa. Number 2, you have to understand that if you don't register the funds through the broker, you can't qualify to get the visa. So again, you got to go through the broker. You also might want to invest because of Airbnb, or get like a rental income and understanding your internal rate of return. If you want to go down that route, I encourage you to use a website called airdna.co, where you can look at the going rates and the margins, active days that you might see on a particular property by area in Medellin. It's a great resource for all you Airbnb investors out there. So defining your buying criteria just helps you stay focused, and just helps you understand like what kind of properties you need to buy to reach your business objectives. After you have your buying criteria, you want to get a real estate agent. So your funds are already in Colombia, you already have a lawyer on your team, you understand where you want to sort of invest in your buying criteria. Now the realtor can serve you better because they know what you want, they know what you're looking for. He's not going to show you properties that aren't allowed to have Airbnbs in them if that's part of your buying criteria. He's not going to show you stuff that's underneath your buying threshold if you need to get the visa. So having all that sort of preliminary work done so that you can get a good realtor is the next best step. Step number 6. After you've seen a couple properties and you understand the pricing dynamics and things like that, the different costs per square meter out there, you want to negotiate a verbal offer. So you just make your offer verbally, talking through the realtor or directly to the seller, and get that agreed upon price nailed down. Once you get the verbal, what's going to happen is they have to supply copies of the public deed. They got to give you their cellular, which is the ID card, and you want to give all that information obviously to your lawyer, who does a title study. Now, a title study comes in 4 parts. So the first is going to be a certificate of ownership, where they just look at just making sure that this person actually owns the property. The next step is they're going to look at copies of the public deed, just to make sure from the inception of the property, they just go through the chain to see the succession of owners, just making sure there are not any legal claims that might surface. Number 3, they do a brief background check on the owner, just to make sure they're not on a list that has to do with drugs or trafficking, just making sure you're buying from a good person. And the last thing is a certificate from the Chamber of Commerce, just making sure that all the taxes and all that stuff are caught up to date. And that is the title study. It's important to point out that it's not title insurance like you might be accustomed to in the US, where you buy title insurance and then anything that might surface in the past you will be protected against that loss. Title insurance does not exist to my knowledge in Colombia, but there is a title study, and generally those will come back favorably. But anything negative on the public deed, on the title, any issues, walk away from the deal. Now, after that title study comes back, your lawyer will give you a recommendation to proceed or walk away. If the title is good, then you negotiate the terms in a purchase agreement. So the purchase agreement will typically be a negotiation of how much money initially that you're going to pay down directly to the seller, and then you pick the closing date. And that time they can sort of take everything out of the apartment if people are living there, and just basically getting ready for closing. One of the things is there's no escrow, so you are in Colombia paying that amount directly to the seller, which might be a little weird up front, because typically what you might want to do, or typically how it's done, is you pay about 30%. So if you're buying a property for about 100K, 30K goes directly to that seller the moment you sign that agreement. Again, I would call my broker, Experiential Valores, and they would just process the wire directly to the seller. And maybe if the closing date is in 2 weeks, I would call again Experiential Valores and get a certified bank check. So then I go to closing with the certified bank check. We sign over all the paperwork at the notary. We get the keys, and they process the new deed in your name, and you are now a property owner. But those are the steps to buying real estate. You can check out again my property here, and I'm just going to keep producing content just around Medellin investing. Hope you like it. Give me some feedback. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.